Hey, what's up, you guys? Bloodee Jacob here to bring you my top 10 TV shows of 2016. This is going to be talking about what shows I enjoyed the most this year. I talk about quite a lot of TV shows, some not as much as I would like. I know a lot of channels are doing like their top 10 movies and such, but I do movie reviews, but I don't always go and watch them as often as others. And TV shows are more important to me anyway. I'm more of a TV show review-based channel. So I thought it'd be fitting to, before we hit 2017, to talk about my favorites of the year. This isn't necessarily talking about like what I enjoy more overall. With everything mixed in. Although I could easily give you a hint for that, but it just talks about what show I enjoyed the most this year for their individual seasons and such, or how much I'm enjoying them at the current moment before the year ends. So that type of thing. Although a show like Supernatural, you'll see, is very high on the list, and that's become my favorite shows of all time, if not my favorite show of all time. So you kind of got that mixed in there. But so before we get into the actual top 10, though, there were a few honorable mentions. Shows that I really did like watching this year, but didn't quite crack the top 10. And some of these were pretty difficult for me not to put on the list, but there are just that many other really, really good shows to me this year that I had to push them off by a bit. My biggest honorable mention is going to go to Black Sails, of course, on the Starz Network. This is a show I wish I would find time to talk about more on my channel. It is a very well done show. The acting is very good all around, as is the production value and different things like that. And season 3 this year is really, really good. Probably the best the show has had so far, I think. And it was very difficult for me not to put Black Sails on this list. And in fact, hey, maybe I'll think this over after I'm done shooting this video and decide it should at least crack, like the top 8 or so. It was just that good. I really like Ray Stevenson's portrayal of Blackbeard. And, of course, Captain Flint, played by Toby Stephens, was as good as ever. Some really good writing between him and Silver this season. As well as what was done with Charles Vane was very impactful. And it's going to be heading into a probably even stronger and climactic final season coming up pretty soon here. So yeah, number 10, or my first honorable mention anyway, is going to go to Black Sails. And moving right along, another honorable mention is going to be Gotham on Fox. A lot of people shit on the show for some reason. I don't really know why, honestly. I get that we all want Batman, and I do hope they do like a big time jump at some point and give us sort of like a Batman show in this world. But I think it's very entertaining if you're a fan of the comics. I know some people would get pissed at me for saying that, but how many different realities and sort of like versions of these characters are in the comic books? Why can't you just accept it as something like that? I think it's a pretty entertaining show. I'm not caught up on it. I still have yet to finish season 2. And that's another thing about this list. Not everything I'm necessarily caught up on. Like Supernatural, for instance, I still have to finish season 10 and 11, catch up on 12. But I'm just talking about how much I enjoy the show no matter where I'm at with it. And Gotham's one I do like watching, I especially like Selena Kyle, Cameron Bickendova. She's my favorite actress to play her so far. And, I also think Ben McKenzie does a fairly strong job as Gordon, of course, with Robin Lord Taylor as Penguin. And other characters have come into more of their own, like Enigma and such. But yeah, I do think Gotham's a pretty fun show. I do like watching it. I will catch up on it. Once I do plan making it a bigger part of my channel. Batman being my favorite comic book character growing up, and still one of, if not my favorite to this day. This is definitely a good one for me to watch for sure. Alright, next honorable mention is going to go to Slasher on Chiller TV. And this one I watched on Netflix. It's only had one season so far. I'm not sure if they're going to be doing a season 2 or not. It's supposed to have like a format like True Detective and such, like new characters every season and such. And I think that's a pretty cool concept for a horror show, And Katie McGraw is in this, who I loved as Morgana on Merlin, so I had to watch for her, and also being a fan of horror, it was like a must-watch at some point for me. And I did like it, Katie McGraw gives a pretty good performance in it, especially in the final episode. I do still appreciate like a classic, like a slasher mystery at times, and this one is pretty good. The acting from the others was alright all around. The only major gripe I had with it is that the mystery itself and who the killer actually ended up being was fairly predictable. So that's kind of a big negative against something with this kind of setup or this kind of premise or basis. But like I said, I still really liked Katie McGraw on it, and I liked the background of the origin of the killer and stuff. That was pretty interesting. But yeah, I still really like watching slasher. I would be interested in seeing another season of it with maybe Katie McGraw taking on a different character or something if they do it that way or whichever. But yeah, I did like slasher, and that's gonna be another honorable mention. And just 2 more honorable mentions, I promise, guys. Another honorable mention is going to be iZombie on the CW. This is one I didn't catch up on until they aired their finale of season 2. Season 3 is going to be coming up in April. Very long wait. They aired I think it was like half and half. They aired the first half in 2015 and then the second half in 2016. So I can technically still use this one. But yeah, iZombie's a show I really do like. I'm very entertained by it. Rose McIver, she's very quirky, very cute, but also very interesting and compelling as Liv Moore. And just some of the personalities that came up with her to take on, with the brain sheets in this one were probably more funny than they've ever been. And the main story, the serious part of it, actually got even better this season. I really like what they did with Babineau, the zombie plot, and how that was handled in the final couple of episodes. It's a really, really fun show, I think. And I'm looking forward to it starting in April, so I can start doing weekly reviews on it when it does begin. See with season 3. So yeah, honorable mention, iZombie. And my last honorable mention is going to be Fear the Walking Dead on AMC. And this is a show I'm still sort of mixed on. I fell behind as I was going in its most recent season 2. The show just really wasn't working for me very much, to be completely honest. Just some of the acting was coming off very dry for a while, despite Alicia Debnam Carey on it. I thought she was wasted as a character until the later part of the season a bit. I still kind of feel like it's a show they could do more with, honestly. That not that it has to be as good as the original, but I feel like they could have done something to make it more entertaining somehow. I don't know, but I did like what they did with the Travis character towards the end of the season. With I'm going to try not to talk about spoilers in this video because any fan of any show could be watching this type of video. But when a certain death occurs, this really sets Travis off, and he sort of has his Rick moment, where he finally snaps and he breaks, and it's actually pretty well portrayed, I think. So that brought it up for me. That's why it's on this honorable mention part of the list. So I am willing to watch it going to season 3, but it's not one I'm still overly excited about, which is why it's kind of my last honorable mention, but I still wanted to bring it up. I did like it towards the end. I think it did get a bit better as the season went on. So yeah, final honorable mention goes to Fear the Walking Dead. And now we finally get into the top 10. And my number 10 spot is going to be drum roll, The Walking Dead on AMC, of course. Some people would think I would put this one a little bit higher up, and I was considering it. I almost wanted to. And it hasn't aired its full season yet, so it probably is at a bit of a disadvantage with that. Of course, the season premiere was very impactful, of course, with the 2 deaths we got in the premiere with Negan, and I really do like Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Negan. I already knew he was a fantastic actor, seeing him in things like Supernatural and such. And I think he does portray Negan very well. And of course, I still really care about and like Rick and Michonne and such. And And while there were episodes I really liked this season, like I said, like the premiere, Service, Cell is alright. I did like Swear, despite some people not. I did enjoy that, Terra-centric episode, at least the first time or two around. And I thought the mid-season finale is pretty good as well, and gives us a little bit of a boost going into the second half with the group plotting against Negan again. That was a bit of a minor spoiler, but I don't think that was like a huge reveal or anything right there. So, why isn't The Walking Dead higher though? It's kind of hard to describe. I just think certain parts of the season felt a little bit dry or flat for me in certain parts as it went on. I think it did drag a little bit. With how they're trying to like space out and like sort of cushion out the season a little bit. Just with them, focusing on one group per episode, I thought it got a little bit tiresome after a certain time. I can't wait to see how Rick's doing right now with the rest of the group. But we gotta wait an episode or two before we check in with them again. I understand it's an ensemble, and I didn't hate on it as much as other people, but it did drag a little bit, and The Walking Dead is coming off a bit on the dull side of me right now. But like I said, JDM's still doing pretty good as Negan, and I still do really like Rick and such, and it's a show I'm not going to stop reviewing. So number 10 is going to be The Walking Dead. Number 9 is going to be Van Helsing on Sci-Fi. This was a show that did surprise me quite a bit. I was pretty happy with it within the first few episodes, and it really took off. And it's a show I'm really excited to see. I'm glad it got renewed for season 2. Of course, vampires are probably my favorite horror type of creatures or characters out there. I think it's a well done show, with the effects, the story, although familiar, it does have some original aspects to it that I feel like are going to be more prevalent in the second season. Pretty good actors all around. Kelly Overton does a pretty good job as Vanessa. We also have Christopher Heyerdahl. And the others too, they're all pretty good. And I think the sets look nice and everything. Like I said, like the effects and the makeup and such. This show probably would have been even higher on the list, but they made a decision. A certain character death. I think it was in episode 9. You guys know who I'm talking about. With the death of that character, it made me really question the writer's judgment, at least when it comes to a certain part of it. And the rest of the season kind of fell a little bit flat for me after that, and the finale didn't quite click with me as much as I felt like it should have. But nonetheless, I'm still looking forward to season 2, and I just want to praise the cast and the crew on the show as well. They're very interactive with their fans on Twitter. I was very happy to be able to talk to them as often as I did after I had watched the episode during the week. And it's a show I'm very eager to follow more of, though. I really, really did like Van Helsing this year. It was a really nice surprise, and I am eager to buy season 1 when it comes out for sure. So number 9 is going to be Van Helsing. Number 8 is going to be Z Nation, also on Sci-Fi. I was debating which show to put over the other between Z Nation and Van Helsing, and though I did say Van Helsing did surprise me quite a bit, I did like it. I'm putting Z Nation over Van Helsing because Z Nation delivered for me more in the last couple of episodes of its season than Van Helsing did in theirs. Z Nation was fine throughout the season. It's pretty much what I expected from the show. But the thing is, they didn't steadily decline towards the end of the season. It just got better and better. Hold on a second, guys.
You want company?
I'm trying to do it.
Oh, okay.
Alright, sorry about that, guys. Hopefully that wasn't too long of a delay. Hopefully like 10 or 15 seconds. But anyway, with Van Helsing, like I said, it fell flat for me, but as it went on, unfortunately. But with Z Nation, as it got later into the season, it just got better and better in my eyes. I really loved how they handled Addie, Anastasia Baranova's character, who I've used as the picture for the show here. I loved that duel episode. I also thought the finale is pretty crazy as well. Everybody dies in the end. Crazy fucking insane cliffhanger for next year. Season 4, of course. Really happy to hear it got renewed as well. And yeah, Z Nation, it's a really, really damn entertaining show, and I enjoyed it more than The Walking Dead, than Fear the Walking Dead. It's just a more enjoyable all-around show to me right now, and I just really loved what they did with Addie. My favorite character on the show. They showed how tough as nails she is, but she's also vulnerable, but yet she has this incredible will and determination, and they really did some pretty awesome-looking fight scenes. With her fight with the man, and as well as on the Enders and such. It was really cool. So yeah, number 8 is Z Nation. Number 7. Okay, yeah, sorry about that, guys. Just had to check the list. So let me drag that here so I can look at it instead of turning away again. Okay, but yeah. So yeah, number 8 is going to be Z Nation. And number 7 is going to be The 100, also on the CW. CW is a pretty awesome network, isn't it? Although I don't really watch The Flash or anything like that. But alright, so number 8 is The 100. Sorry, I'm for some reason confused right now. Anyway, yeah, number 8 is The 100. This is one of the most discussed shows on my channel. Some of my reviews of The 100 in Season 3, they're some of my most viewed videos I've had. And The 100 is one of my favorite shows airing right now, and I was overall very, pretty pleased with Season 3, I know there's some controversy with certain character deaths this season, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. But I thought Season 3 was still a very, very important season for The 100. It did a lot of world building, I thought. We got more of a look at the Grounders, with us seeing more of the Capitol and such. We also got more of this sci-fi type of threat introduced, which is just making the show a whole lot bigger, going into Season 4, coming out February 1st. And I just thought the storyline got more intricate this season, and I really loved it. I love talking about it every week. And I did also enjoy, what we got of Lexa this season. I liked, I loved Watch the Thrones, her fight with Roan and such. And like I said, there were some character deaths a little bit later on in the season that, I can understand why people are frustrated over. I'm kind of trying to dance around it right now. It's a little bit difficult. Some of those and how they're done were a bit frustrating, but I think it brought it right back around in the final few episodes of the season. I thought the finale was very good, and it sort of reversed some of the damage it did with the character death, although I still feel it for sure. I still think it gave us a very pleasing finale and a very intense setup for what should be an even better Season 4, hopefully. But yeah, I really, really like The 100 this year. It is one of my favorite shows airing, like I said. And why isn't it any higher, though? Well, I've been rewatching it with my girlfriend as I'm trying to get her caught up on it slowly as well. And it, rewatching it again, it's not quite as good as I remember watching it the first time as it aired. It's not quite, jiving with me as much as it did when I initially, showed and such. But still, 100, it definitely earned a number 8. It's definitely one I'm still eager to see more of, and I'm glad I still have a poster of it in my room. So yeah, number 8 is The 100. Number 7 is going to be Shameless on Showtime. And this is a show I definitely wish I would do more videos on, just with work and everything and all the other shows I like to talk about. Sometimes, I fall behind on getting videos out for it. But Shameless, it's one of the best damn shows on TV right now, period. Just the acting all around, it's, very well written, and I was, pretty happy with it this year. Although I would probably say it's might be the weakest season of Shameless so far. I didn't enjoy it quite as much as others, during the majority of it. But the season 7 finale of Shameless, Requiem for a Slut, it was an amazing episode. Very emotionally impactful, I thought, with the Gallaghers dealing with a character death. Just the acting all around in that episode is just top notch. Arguably more than ever on the show. And some people even thought the finale could could have served as the series finale, and I can understand what they meant with how they handled certain certain scenes in the end. But I just thought certain storylines throughout the seasons didn't quite work as well as they did in other seasons. But still a show I heavily enjoy watching, and it's a show I feel like I can relax and pay attention to at the same time. It's a show I can get something to eat and watch. Just feel good about watching these characters' lives play out. It's a show I really like to sit back and watch. Number 7 is going to be Shameless. Number 6 is going to be The Originals. We're coming back to the CW now. The Originals. Season 3 this past year was very, very good. Probably the best season of The Originals overall so far. At first, it didn't really quite click with me as much either. I didn't think Rebecca and Tristan were nearly the level of villains that Michael and Dahlia were. As well as Lucian. He didn't really quite work for me as well as those did either. But certain episodes in this season really, I thought, worked. When we got, I think it was episode 9, the mid-season finale, with what they did with that Klaus and Cammy. That episode was just really worked. Made me really happy. Then, of course, devastated. And then, the final couple of episodes through this season were absolutely incredible. With Give 'Em Hell Kid and the Bloodee Crown. Very different setup for season 4 coming up in March. And they really developed Klaus more than ever this season. I've been calling Klaus arguably the most well-developed character I've seen in a TV show, going from the biggest villain in the Vampire Diaries to this such well-rounded character on the Originals, and they did even more with that this season. With some of the tiebacks to him and Haley, as well as how they handled him and Camille this season. I thought was very touching. And we got character deaths in the season too, but unlike the 100, I didn't think they were really as frustrating. I thought they actually worked and they were impactful, although they were sad. One in particular I was personally happy about, but I guess that just depends on you. Overall I thought season 3 of The Originals was very, very exciting, very, like I said, more impactful than ever. And I can't wait to see what they do with season 4. So, Number 6 is going to be The Originals. Number 5 is going to be The Strain on FX. Of course, when the show comes back in 2017, it's going to be in its 4th and final season. And season 3 I was very happy with. It was one of my favorite shows to talk about on the channel this year. I've reviewed every episode, haven't missed reviewing a single one since it started with season 1. And season 3 is, I think, arguably its best season so far. With regards to pacing, I thought it was a lot more fluid with that. It did have a shorter episode order of 10 instead of the usual 13, so that's probably factored to that for a little bit tighter story-wise. But I think it works for the show, when they're doing that next year with the final season. I think it's really going to work in its favor. F, of course, he's my favorite character on the show. I thought what he did with him this season I thought was fine. Of course, handling the fallout from the season 2 finale, of course, the loss he dealt with, as well as searching for his son. His son, of course, is as frustrating as ever, but the rest of the show is awesome. Of course, we still continue to have very good villains on the show. I loved the concentration on Quinlan we got this season. We got some really cool fight sequences with him. And the finale, although the way it happened is frustrating, I think the finale is really, really good. It gives us sort of that post-apocalyptic look we got going into the final season that I've always wanted to see. So I'm very happy with that. And I thought season 3 was just a very solid season all around. So number 5 is going to be The Strain. Wait, I think I'm getting a little tad bit mixed up here. Let's see. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, yeah. I might have messed up saying some of these numbers. My grammar isn't exactly the greatest right now, or my speaking skills. But let's just say my next favorite is definitely The Strain. And number 4 is going to be Game of Thrones on HBO. Of course, that's not Game of Thrones, but this is Game of Thrones. Season 6 of Game of Thrones, what can I say? It was pretty amazing, guys. I had thought that my favorite season would always be like 4 or maybe parts of 2. But then again, it's Game of Thrones, so every season always has like an unrivaled quality to it. And season 6, it's taking it in an even bigger, sort of a end game direction, going into its final 2 shorter seasons, season 7 and season 8. And they had some really awesome stuff in this season, with what they did with Jon Snow. Sansa, she's more developed than ever in this season. What they do with her is really brings it full circle. It's very satisfying for her character. And we get some very, fan-pleasing moments in this one. Also with, Tyrion, growing higher in Daenerys' council. The threat of the White Walkers, growing closer and closer, and it's really going to make for a very dark, intense, probably tragic, but really, really fun and entertaining final season when we get to it. In Season 7, it's really going to have shit hitting the fan as well. Battle of the Bastards, of course, was one of the greatest filmed action sequences I've ever seen, not just in TV but in movies as well. Nothing like Game of Thrones, just the dialogue, the sets, the acting, everything. Game of Thrones is such a fantastic piece of TV and one of the greatest shows ever. And I'm very happy to put it on this list as number 4. So how the hell are there 3 other shows ahead of it? Like I said, it just comes down to my personal preference, really. And my number 3 show is for this year is going to be Penny Dreadful on Showtime. And I was debating if I should put this ahead of Game of Thrones or not, because we've seen the final season of Penny Dreadful, unfortunately, this year, the 3rd and final season. And at first I wasn't going to put it quite as high as it is at number 3, because I was frustrated with how they handled parts of the ending, and I feel like they really could get another season out of it, and it is kind of ironic that they are doing comic book series set afterward, which kind of tells you something there. Certain elements in the story did feel a bit rushed. Just hold on another second, guys.
I need about 4 hangers. I can't help it.
Alright, sorry about that, guys. It's just what happens when you live in a house with about, like 5 or 7 other people. But, while certain parts of the season they did feel a bit rushed, certain story points, I would have liked to have seen more time spent with it. And, it just kind of plays into the idea that maybe this wasn't originally going to be the very end of the show. Maybe it was going to be a bit more stretched out over another season or so, hopefully. At least. While that did bring it down a bit for me, while I do think there is a bit more to the story left to be told, Penny Dreadful, it's still such a fantastic show, guys. And, some people are going to say, how dare I put that over Game of Thrones? And, Game of Thrones didn't really make they didn't really make any mistakes in Season 6. I think of it week to week, when I was watching them both. And despite how good Game of Thrones was this past season, I remember always thinking I do still have a preference for Penny Dreadful, each week. I do still linger over to Penny Dreadful when I think about what I personally do favor. And it is Penny Dreadful, no matter how they handled certain story points, the acting was still incredible. Despite the ending being as controversial as it was, fantastic acting from Eva Green. She deserves all the Emmys in the world. She gave probably the greatest performance from a female actress I've seen on TV, or movies, bar none. Eva Green's just amazing. And, they definitely did still have some good points to the story, although rushed. They did some good stuff with Ethan and his father this season, although they, again, that was one of the rushed, elements of it. I did like the portrayal of Dracula, which was very fantastic to see on the show from Christian Carmago, who was also on Dexter back in season 1. But yeah, despite it feeling rushed and despite me having my misgivings about it being the end, Penny Dreadful, it's still an unparalleled, completely unmatched show, writing and acting wise. Dialogue still fantastic. Blade of Grass is one of the greatest episodes ever. So yeah, I love Penny Dreadful, and it's going to be one of my favorite shows of all time. If it was going for another season, I would probably put it even higher. It might even be at number 1, who knows. But yeah, number 3 is going to go to Penny Dreadful for sure. Number 2, my second favorite show of the whole year is going to go to Marvel's Daredevil on Netflix. Yeah, this is a very close one, for these final 3 for sure. But season 2 of Daredevil, it was really, really good. Awesome. I really, really like season 1. What they do with Fisk and everything, concentration on him. Daredevil first getting into who he's to become and such. But I think season 2 was arguably even better. You could see a more out there Daredevil. He's sort of become more of what we know him as. And I also really like Elodie Young's Elektra. Some people didn't really like her for some reason, but I did. But what really made the season to me was the Punisher. Frank Castle, played by Jon Bernthal. I was already a big fan of Jon Bernthal, from his role as Shane on The Walking Dead. But the Punisher, he's one of my favorite comic book characters, along with Batman, the Hulk, and now Daredevil. And the Punisher might even be my favorite comic book character, actually. I really loved Tom Jane's performance as him in the movie back in 2004. I didn't think anything else could, top that or even be on the same level, but Jon Bernthal did it, I'm not saying I like him more than Tom Jane, but I'm saying I'm just so damn happy we have 2 great versions of the character out there now. And I'm stoked as hell that we're getting, that Punisher series next year. And it's going to be amazing. I just really like the way they wrote the Punisher this season. It's very accurate to the character, very realistic, with the psychological elements they put in it. And, I would have liked them to have intertwined the Punisher story and the Hand, Elektra story this season a little bit more than they did. Have it sort of, like I said, intertwined and intersect a little bit more than they had it. But still, very strong season, and I'm just very excited to see more Punisher and season 3 whenever it does hit. So yeah, number 2 is going to be Daredevil. Just great acting all around, good fight choreography, just writing, everything. So number 2 is Daredevil. And now my number 1 show of 2016. Again, very difficult. Like I said, I could have put Penny Dreadful at number 1. I could have made a case for Game of Thrones or Daredevil being at number 1 if I really wanted to. But what I finally decided would be my number 1 show of 2016 is a show I mentioned earlier. It's a show that I'm not quite caught up on. I still have to finish season 10, 11, and catch up on the current season 12. But, I gotta admit I had the most fun and enjoyment and investment watching this show this year and slowly catching up on it, becoming a now massive fan of the show. And my number 1 show of 2016 is going to be Supernatural on the CW. And yes, Supernatural is my number 1 show of 2016. I've just enjoyed the hell out of it, catching up on it. Now, in a way it is unfair that, I've watched, I have like 10 seasons or so now to base it on compared to like 1 season of all the other shows this year. But, even, season 1 was a great start. Season 2 is arguably even better. Season 3 was very good too. Season 4 is awesome. 5 was awesome. 6 is fine. 7 was, not my favorite, but still pretty good. Season 8, I liked even more. Season 9, I liked just as much. 10, I'm liking just as much right now. And I just have such confidence in the show. I'm guessing season 11 I'm going to really, really like as well. I'm guessing season 12 is pretty awesome too. I just love Supernatural, guys. It's an amazing show. Great chemistry from the cast. Jensen Ackles, awesome actor. Very, very invested in the Dean Winchester character as well as the story in general. Also love Sam. Castiel. Grown to love Crowley. Just one of my. It's become one of my favorite shows of all time, guys. And I couldn't not put it at number one. This show, it gave me a show to care so much about when I didn't think I could find anything like that again. And it's helped me a lot. I've had some rough times this year, and Supernatural's, brought me back. It's brought me back to some form of sanity anyway. And I just love this show, and I can't wait to finally catch up on it so I can talk about it every week. Supernatural may be my favorite show of all time now, or at least my top 2 or 3. And I like I said, I couldn't not put it at number 1. Yeah. There's my top 10 TV shows of 2016, guys. I know it was a long one, but I still wanted to talk about all of these. Like I said, the list was very hard to rank and such. But I did want to do something like this for the end of the year. I'm going to try and do this every year now. In the end, towards the end of December before the new year hits. But yeah, let me know what you guys like this year. Let me know what your favorites were this year and why. Like I said. I know not everyone's going to agree with all my rankings and such, but, just respect everyone's opinions. We just have so much, good TV nowadays. Let's just be happy about that, right? Alright, so if you guys enjoyed this video, those who watched all of it, I thank you. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.